Imagine you are on a routine commercial flight, perhaps on a sleek SpaceX vessel designed for wealthy tourists, returning from a trip around the moon, looking back at that small blue marble that holds everything you have ever known, and suddenly a devastating navigation error, just a tiny calculation mistake, occurs. You find your ship off course, and before anyone can react, a massive silent pull takes hold, dragging the vessel, despite its roaring, useless thrusters, toward a perfect sphere of crushing absolute darkness. It is an emptiness so profound, it seems to swallow the very light around it. Have you ever wondered what actually happens if you fall into that pitch black void? Imagine you are Michael, a 32-year-old Wall Street broker who practically breathes the relentless American hustle culture. Every single morning in New York, his entire existence revolves around the sacred mantra that time is money. He constantly glances at the heavy Rolex resting on his wrist, a mechanical symbol of his dominance over every passing second. For a guy like Michael, wasting a minute means losing a fortune, so he tracks his life in precise, calculated financial intervals. He measures his success by how much he can squeeze out of the relentless ticking clock of the financial district. But here is where things start to get truly terrifying for our time-obsessed broker. What happens when a man who worships the clock comes face to face with an entity that literally devours time itself? That expensive Rolex on his wrist is designed to measure a steady linear reality that simply does not exist out here. Right now, Michael is hurtling helplessly toward a gravitational monster that cares absolutely nothing about his busy schedule or stock portfolios. We always tend to think of time as a completely reliable heartbeat that steadily governs the flow of our entire human universe. Well, Michael is about to discover that his precious time is fragile, and it is about to be completely shattered. The immense gravitational pull of this dark sphere is preparing to stretch and warp time into something entirely unrecognizable. All those frantic hours he spent chasing wealth on Wall Street are about to be swallowed by an incomprehensible physical paradox. To understand what happens next, we have to talk about gravity in a way that breaks our everyday logic completely. On Earth, gravity is just the invisible force, keeping your coffee cup on the desk or pulling an apple downward. But out here, gravity is not just a force, it is a fundamental warping of the very fabric of space itself. Imagine placing a heavy bowling ball on a stretched trampoline and watching how everything else inevitably rolls toward that central dip. That is exactly what a black hole does to the universe, but on a scale that defies all human comprehension. So what exactly is this absolute, terrifying boundary that you are rapidly approaching right now? Physicists call this invisible threshold the event horizon, and it is the ultimate point of no return in our entire cosmos. Think of it like paddling a small canoe down a river that suddenly turns into a raging, uncontrollable waterfall. There is a precise point where the current becomes so violently fast that no matter how hard you paddle, you fall over that edge. The event horizon is that exact waterfall edge, but instead of water, space itself drags everything inward at a terrifying speed. Here is where it gets interesting, because what you are looking at is not actually an empty void of space. The profound darkness of a black hole is not a color, and it is definitely not just the absence of matter. It is a boundary where gravity has become so overwhelmingly powerful that even light itself has completely surrendered to the pull. Imagine shining the brightest flashlight possible directly into the center of this monstrous, swirling cosmic abyss. The photons do not bounce back to your eyes. They are violently dragged downward into the hidden singularity because light cannot escape. Human eyes perceive this terrifying region as a perfect pitch black sphere hanging silently in the deep starfield. You're essentially staring at a shadow cast by warped space-time, a cosmic trapdoor swallowing every photon crossing its path. Is there any way to fight against this astronomical force once you cross that definitive line in the cosmic sand? Escaping would require you to travel faster than the speed of light, which the strict laws of physics forbid. As you drift closer to this absolute darkness, something more bizarre than gravity begins to aggressively break down around you. Imagine the scene back in New York City, where Michael's frantic colleagues have somehow hijacked a massive orbital telescope to watch his final moments. They are expecting a sudden and violent disappearance. completely unaware that general relativity has prepared a far more agonizing spectacle for the audience. From their safe vantage point on Earth, the relentless Wall Street broker does not violently shatter or instantly vanish into the cosmic abyss. Instead, as Michael approaches the event horizon, the immense gravitational pull begins to stretch the very fabric of light and time around his descending vessel. The colleagues stare at the monitor in absolute silence. His doomed image begins to redshift, turning a deep crimson before fading into a ghostly hologram. They watch the second hand on his prized Rolex, a watch that once dictated multi-million trades, slow to an excruciating crawl until it simply stops ticking. To the entire universe watching from the outside, Michael is permanently frozen in time, trapped as a static ghost on the edge of oblivion. But here is where it gets genuinely interesting, because the reality is entirely dependent on who holds the stopwatch. What does it actually mean to experience time when space itself is collapsing into an infinite singularity? For the frozen man on the screen, the concept of a delayed death is nothing more than an optical illusion played on the spectators. Michael is not hovering peacefully in a state of suspended animation. He is most certainly not feeling the gentle embrace of a cosmic pause. From his terrifyingly isolated frame of reference inside the plunging capsule, there is no slowing down, no hesitation, and absolutely no mercy. He is accelerating toward the darkest point in existence at a speed that defies human comprehension. The terrifying truth of time dilation dictates that the stronger the gravity pulling him down, the faster the outside world must inherently rush forward. Now listen carefully, because as Michael instinctively glances out the viewport of his doomed ship, he does not see a static universe waiting for his return. He witnesses the ultimate fast-forward button being violently smashed on the grand cosmic remote control. The faint starlight pouring in from behind him begins to shift intensely into blinding blues and searing ultraviolets as millions of years of cosmic evolution are violently compressed into mere seconds. The beloved hustle culture, the relentless stock market, and the bustling streets of Manhattan are instantly evaporating behind his back. The universe is not waiting for him to fall. Rather, it is now desperately racing toward its own inevitable demise, while he simply watches from the gravitational front row. In the span of what feels like 3 rapid heartbeats to the doomed broker, the entire history of his civilization flashes and burns out before his widening eyes. He watches the great American empire crumble into dust. The towering skyscrapers of New York are swallowed by shifting tectonic plates. The dying sun ultimately expands to consume a lifeless earth. Every single trade he ever made, every dollar he ruthlessly earned, and every person he ever knew is eradicated in a fleeting cosmic blink. He is entirely alone in the void, a living relic of a dead planet, carrying a stopped Rolex into a place where time itself has completely lost its meaning. So what actually happens to your vision the moment you slip past that invisible threshold of no return? The starlight behind you does not just simply dim out like a movie theater, slowly lowering its curtains before a show. Instead, the intense gravitational pull of the singularity actively captures and violently warps the photons entering the black hole right alongside you. You look back at the universe you are leaving behind, and you see the entire cosmos compressed into a tight, blindingly bright halo of light directly above your head. The infinite expanse of spinning galaxies, the burning remnants of our solar system, and every single star that has ever existed are squeezed into a single, shrinking spotlight. It is an overwhelming visual distortion that no human eye was ever evolved or meant to process. You are literally watching the ultimate optical illusion, created by the fabric of space-time itself, folding inward around your fragile body. Gradually, as you plunge much deeper toward the unseen center, that brilliant halo begins to shift in color. This happens through a bizarre physical process known to scientists as gravitational redshift. The incoming light stretches out endlessly across the vast cosmic void. It turns rapidly from a piercing white to a deep, ominous crimson. Then it fades entirely into the infrared spectrum, where your human eyes can no longer perceive it. Here is where it gets interesting. Once that final speck of reddish light completely vanishes from your view, everything changes. You are instantly enveloped in a suffocating darkness, that defies any earthly comparison. It is not just the simple absence of light in a room, it is the absolute physical impossibility of any photon ever reaching your retinas again. Think about the darkest place you have ever experienced back in your normal life on Earth. Maybe you were trapped in a massive, windowless suburban basement during a regional blackout caused by a severe winter storm. You might remember standing frozen at the bottom of the wooden stairs, holding your breath. You strained your eyes desperately to find even a tiny sliver of illumination creeping under the doorframe above. In that familiar basement, your brain could still sense the physical space around you. You could feel the cool concrete walls and find comfort in knowing that the sun was still burning brightly somewhere outside. But the crushing void you are falling through right now is infinitely more absolute and terrifying than any temporary power outage in a quiet American suburb. There are no solid walls to touch, no concrete floor to stand on, and absolutely no sun waiting to rise again. This total sensory deprivation extends far beyond just your vision, systematically stripping away everything that connects your mind to physical reality. The pristine vacuum inside the event horizon offers no atmospheric medium for sound waves to travel. This creates a heavy, crushing silence that presses violently against your fragile eardrums. It is a quiet so profound and incredibly unbroken that your brain desperately begins to amplify internal noises. You start to hear the frantic, rhythmic pumping of your heart echoing like a massive bass drum inside your skull. You can literally hear the rushing sound of your blood flowing through the intricate network of veins in your neck. You are entirely alone in the dark, accompanied only by the mechanical noises of your own biological existence. You are now drifting continuously through an endless, pitch-black ocean. Here, the fundamental concepts of up, down, left, and right have completely lost all their physical meaning. You are floating helplessly in a terrifying mathematical absolute. The profound, suffocating isolation forces you to question the very nature of human consciousness. What does it truly mean to be a living entity when nobody can ever perceive you again? If you exist in a sealed pocket of reality where no information can ever escape, do you actually still exist at all? How can a fast-paced Wall Street broker comprehend a reality where he is permanently severed from the rest of the universe? Michael spent his entire life measuring his personal worth by constant connectivity and rapid market interactions. Now he is just a silent observer, trapped in the ultimate sensory deprivation tank of the cosmos. So what happens next to our hustle-obsessed broker as he plunges into the ultimate abyss? If you have ever watched a summer blockbuster sci-fi movie on a Friday night, you probably have a very vivid picture in your head of how this ends. You expect a spectacular, agonizing demise filled with crunching bones and boiling blood. We are culturally conditioned to believe that the most violent, destructive gravitational force in the known universe must inevitably deliver the most violent and bloody death imaginable. We assume Michael is about to be tossed into a cosmic meat grinder that will vaporize him in a blaze of cinematic glory. But here is where it gets incredibly interesting. What if I told you that almost everything popular culture has taught you about crossing the event horizon is a complete and utter lie? You see, the reality of physics is often far stranger, and in many ways, far more unsettling than anything Hollywood could ever dream up. To understand why Michael survives this plunge, we have to examine the sheer incomprehensible scale of the beast he is falling into. Imagine we are not just dealing with any random tear in space, but a supermassive black hole, similar to Sagittarius A star, the sleeping giant lurking right at the very center of our own Milky Way galaxy. This isn't just a heavy object, it is an entity with a mass millions or even billions of times greater than our sun. Because it is so unfathomably huge, the event horizon, the terrifying boundary of no return, is stretched out over a radius of millions of miles. And that massive scale changes the physical rules entirely. Think about how gravity normally works on a human body when you fall feet first toward a massive object. The gravitational pull on your shoes should logically be stronger than the pull on your head. Physicists call this a tidal force, and it is the exact same cosmic mechanism that allows our moon to pull the Earth's oceans back and forth. But because the supermassive black hole is so impossibly wide, the curvature of space-time at its edge is actually astonishingly gentle. The difference in gravitational pull between Michael's feet and his head is practically zero. So, as Michael braces for the final bone-crushing impact that will violently end his endless pursuit of wealth, he tightly squeezes his eyes shut and clutches his heavy Rolex. He waits for the unbearable agony to tear his physical form apart. And then he waits a little longer. He opens his eyes, looks around, and realizes a truly shocking truth. Absolutely nothing physical has happened to him. He feels no crushing pressure, no searing heat, no unimaginable pain tearing his atoms apart. He just drifts right through the boundary as smoothly as a luxury sedan gliding down an empty American interstate highway at midnight. There are no cosmic alarms blaring in the vacuum of space, no flashing red lights warning him of his doom, and no physical sensation whatsoever to mark the transition. The gravity is distributed so perfectly, so evenly across his body, that he wouldn't even know he had just crossed the absolute point of no return. It is a perfectly smooth, perfectly silent, and utterly painless cosmic trap. Imagine looking around just as you pass this invisible boundary. You wouldn't see a solid brick wall of blackness hitting your face. Instead, because of how severely gravity bends light around the sphere, you would see a bizarre, distorted halo of the universe behind you. The starlight would be smeared into a mesmerizing ring of fire. For a guy used to chaotic Manhattan cafes, this absolute sensory deprivation is mind-bending. The silence is absolute. Now think about what that actually means for a moment. It is a profoundly unsettling realization, isn't it? The greatest, most inescapable trapdoor in the entire universe does not snap your neck or crush your skull to let you know you are doomed. It just quietly locks behind you without making a single sound. You are still breathing, your heart is still pumping, and your brain is still frantically calculating your stock portfolio. From Michael's perspective, he is completely intact and floating peacefully in a void, completely unaware that his fate was permanently sealed the second he crossed that invisible threshold. We are biologically wired to expect pain as a warning sign that something is terribly wrong. Pain is our evolutionary alarm system. It tells us to fight back, to pull away, to survive. But nature has engineered a cosmic demise so majestic and so overwhelmingly massive that it doesn't even bother to hurt you. It simply removes you from the observable universe with a chilling, quiet efficiency. Michael is now technically a ghost, a dead man walking who is completely cut off from humanity, yet he is experiencing the most peaceful, uninterrupted freefall imaginable. He holds the darkest secrets of the cosmos forever. So we could just leave the story there with Michael floating peacefully into the abyss without a single scratch on his tailored suit. You see, the irony of the universe is that the most massive cosmic monsters are actually the gentlest hosts you could ever hope to visit, because a supermassive black hole is so unfathomably huge. The change in gravity across its event horizon is incredibly gradual and practically imperceptible. But what happens if we completely flip the script and visit one of the smaller, angrier cousins of the cosmic family? Imagine we shift our focus away from the center of the galaxy and look at a much more common phenomenon called a stellar black hole. These are the collapsed remnants of dead stars that are roughly the size of a single American city, but pack the mass of several entire suns into that tiny space. This is a completely different kind of beast, with a gravitational slope so violently steep that it defies all human comprehension. How would an ordinary person experience this completely different flavor of gravitational doom? Let us introduce someone completely different into this terrifying cosmic equation to really understand the sheer violence of these tiny monsters. Imagine Chloe, a 20-year-old college student from Los Angeles who lives her entire life completely tethered to the digital world. She is exactly the kind of person who constantly documents every single waking moment for her massive audience of online followers. Right now, she is floating toward this incredibly dense stellar black hole while frantically holding up her latest iPhone to capture the perfect live stream. For someone raised in the modern American landscape of constant connectivity, her absolute biggest fear at this exact moment is not the crushing weight of gravity. Her ultimate nightmare is simply losing her precious internet connection as she watches the signal bars on her glowing screen slowly drop to zero. She is experiencing the ultimate modern anxiety of the dead zone, completely terrified that her viewers will miss out on this spectacular cosmic event. But here is where it gets terrifyingly interesting for our young live streamer. That familiar, almost comforting panic about losing her digital connection is about to be violently replaced by an absolute physical nightmare. You have to understand that when you approach a stellar black hole, the gravitational pull increases at an unbelievably exponential rate over very short distances. If you think about it, the distance between your feet and your head is only about 5 or 6 feet. On Earth, that tiny distance means absolutely nothing because our planet's gravitational pull is incredibly weak and evenly distributed across your entire body. But when Chloe points her feet toward the center of this dense stellar remnant, that incredibly short distance suddenly becomes the most critical measurement in the universe. The gravity grabbing her designer sneakers is now millions of times stronger than the gravity pulling on the top of her head. What does it actually mean to experience that kind of extreme gravitational difference in a fragile biological body? Imagine hanging off the edge of a tall skyscraper in downtown Los Angeles, holding on by your fingertips while a heavy weight pulls on your legs. Now multiply that pulling sensation by 1 trillion, and you might start to barely comprehend the sheer mechanical terror of what physicists call tidal forces. The very fabric of space-time is curving so sharply around this tiny, hyperdense sphere that it creates a massive differential in the pulling force. Chloe can actually feel her feet accelerating toward the dark center significantly faster than her torso, which is in turn moving faster than her head. This is not just a gentle tug, this is an aggressive, unstoppable stretching of the fundamental architecture of her physical reality. Can you even begin to imagine the sheer horror of feeling your own body being actively pulled into completely different timelines? This brings us to one of the most delightfully gruesome terms ever officially adopted by the theoretical physics community. Scientists call this horrific process spaghettification, and it is exactly as violently descriptive as it sounds to the average human ear. The extreme gravitational gradient does not just pull Chloe downward, it simultaneously squeezes her inward from the sides as all paths lead directly to the singularity. Imagine taking a soft piece of warm clay and pulling it from both ends while tightly squeezing the middle until it forms a long, thin string. That is precisely what the universe is doing to her physical form, stretching her out like a strand of cosmic pasta across the dark canvas of space. Her bones, her muscles, and her expensive phone are all subject to a directional force that ignores the basic rules of structural integrity. Everything that makes up her physical existence is being aggressively elongated in a vertical direction while being violently crushed in the horizontal direction. The shiny iPhone she was clutching so desperately slips from her elongating fingers, not because she dropped it, but because the phone itself is being stretched into a thin metallic wire. The device that held her entire social life, her precious digital identity, and her constant connection to the bustling culture of California is completely unraveling. She watches in absolute, paralyzed horror as the phone stretches into a miles-long ribbon of glass and silicon before dissolving into the darkness below. But she cannot even properly process the loss of her technology because her own biological framework is undergoing the exact same catastrophic geometric transformation. The blood in her veins is being pulled downwards so fast that it creates an impossible pressure vacuum within her elongating skeletal structure. How do you even begin to process a level of physical distortion that breaks the very molecular bonds holding your human cells together? This terrifying physical reality forces us to acknowledge our ultimate vulnerability as fragile biological creatures floating through a deeply hostile cosmos. We spend our entire lives building digital empires on tiny screens, only to be completely erased by a single cosmic mathematical equation. Let us pause and intimately examine what is actually happening to Chloe as she falls into this stellar mass black hole. Imagine the immense gravitational pull aggressively tugging at the tip of her designer sneakers compared to the top of her head. Because she is plunging into a violently curved spatial distortion, the difference in gravitational force across her body is absolutely astronomical. Her lower extremities are accelerating toward the center of the singularity millions of times faster than her brain can process. The sleek titanium chassis of her expensive new iPhone is undergoing the exact same horrific geometric distortion at this very moment. In our normal earthly environment, we inherently trust the structural integrity of our physical bodies and our premium gadgets. We believe these solid objects will always hold us together and keep us deeply connected to our familiar reality. But gravity here is no longer a gentle force, softly holding you to the pavement of a busy city street. Instead, it has transformed into a relentless cosmic rack, meticulously designed to stretch human reality into a terrifyingly thin wire. What exactly happens when this physical tension vastly exceeds the tensile strength of human flesh and premium consumer technology? As she is forcefully dragged deeper into the abyss, the stretching effect becomes a literal physical deformation on the centimeter scale. Imagine a thick piece of chewing gum being aggressively pulled apart until the center becomes dangerously translucent and incredibly frail. Chloe's bones, joints, and muscles are unspooling in a grotesque vertical line, while simultaneously being violently squeezed from all sides. The reinforced Gorilla Glass screen of her phone, brilliantly engineered to survive harsh concrete drops, bends and warps like warm taffy. It does not shatter immediately, but rather stretches out before silently fragmenting into a continuous stream of elongated crystalline shards. This is the brutal and unforgiving reality of spaghettification happening in real time to a human being. It is a terrifying process where solid three-dimensional objects are forcibly converted into agonizingly one-dimensional streams of raw matter. Why does this bizarre geometric nightmare actually happen to physical objects falling into a massive gravitational well? Because the curvature of space-time in this localized region is so extreme that the shortest path is an endlessly stretching line. Now listen carefully, because the physical destruction absolutely does not stop at the visible level of crushed bones and warped screens. We are systematically zooming in much further, passing the millimeter mark and entering the microscopic realm where the true horror unfolds. Imagine the intricate biological machinery flowing inside Chloe's bloodstream being ruthlessly dragged into this unstoppable gravitational meat grinder. Her red blood cells, normally functioning as perfect little microscopic donuts, are stretched into infinitely long, impossibly thin needles of biology. The complex silicon microchips securely housed inside her iPhone are simultaneously being ripped apart layer by microscopic layer. These chips contain billions of microscopic transistors that fundamentally define our modern digital lives and our endless social media connectivity. The very concept of structural architecture, both the biology making her human and the engineering making her phone work, is dismantled. Are we really just fragile arrangements of microscopic matter desperately pretending to be permanent fixtures in a highly chaotic universe? The answer provided by the stellar black hole is a resounding, terrifying, and profoundly humbling yes. Here is where it gets genuinely interesting as we forcefully cross the threshold into the nanometer scale of reality. Down in this incredibly tiny realm, the fundamental laws of chemistry itself begin to completely break down and surrender. Imagine the elegant double helix of Chloe's DNA, the fundamental biological blueprint of her entire existence, being pulled impossibly taut. The covalent bonds tightly holding the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms together in her body simply lack the required electromagnetic strength. They cannot possibly fight against the overwhelming curvature of space-time that is aggressively tearing her molecular structure into pieces. It is exactly like trying to desperately hold on to a thick safety rope that is rapidly dissolving into thin mist. The advanced lithium-ion battery of her phone is simultaneously reduced to a chaotic, glowing stream of unbound chemical elements. Everything that Los Angeles consumer culture relentlessly taught her to value is rapidly revealed to be a temporary physical illusion. Her carefully curated physical appearance, her expensive designer clothes, and her flawless digital connectivity are instantly wiped away by gravity. What does it truly mean to own expensive things when the molecular glue of the universe decides to stop working? We must journey even deeper into the abyss, pushing past the shattered molecules and diving directly into the atomic scale. Imagine a single atom of carbon ripped from Chloe's skin, a tiny heavy nucleus surrounded by a buzzing cloud of electrons. Under normal, comfortable earthly conditions, the electromagnetic force securely holds those electrons in a tight, highly predictable orbit around the center. But as this elongated stream of matter plunges closer to the singularity, the gravitational gradient overpowers the forces of electromagnetism. The electron clouds are violently and completely stripped away from their atomic nuclei in a matter of microscopic fractions of a second. This aggressive separation immediately creates a blindingly hot, highly energetic plasma of disconnected, screaming atomic particles rushing into the dark. The shattered iPhone, the expensive designer clothes, and the complex biological tissues are now entirely indistinguishable from one another. In this raging river of superheated atomic debris, there is absolutely no difference between human flesh and advanced silicon technology. All the prized physical materialism that forcefully defines human success on Earth is instantly equalized into the exact same cosmic dust. But the real secret lies in what happens at the absolute bottom of this terrifying microscopic downward spiral. We are now forcefully entering the femtometer scale, where even the heavy protons and neutrons cannot survive the infinite stretching. Imagine the strong nuclear force, widely considered the most powerful binding energy known to physics, finally surrendering to overwhelming gravity. The tiny quarks that seamlessly make up the protons are aggressively torn apart, breaking the most sacred laws of particle physics. This creates a spectacular microscopic finale, where the very building blocks of the universe are permanently shattered into absolute nothingness. Chloe is no longer a living person, and the expensive smartphone is no longer a functional communication device. They have both been reduced to a pure, undiluted stream of fundamental quantum information falling endlessly into the dark void. We spend our entire lives greedily accumulating mass, building massive structures, and worshipping the physical solidity of our modern world. Yet, when finally confronted with the raw, unfiltered mechanical power of the cosmos, all that precious matter is casually dismantled. How can we ever look at the solid, tangible objects in our hands the same way after understanding this fragility? So we have watched Chloe get completely shredded into a microscopic stream of subatomic particles alongside her shattered, expensive smartphone. Common sense instantly tells us that this must be the absolute, undeniable end of her story and her physical existence. We naturally assume that the black hole has simply erased her from the universe like a deleted file on a computer. The intense gravitational forces have seemingly ground every single atom of her being into completely meaningless, chaotic dust floating in space. You would logically think that nothing of her remains, not even the microscopic silicon chips of her beloved mobile device. But what if everything we just visualized about this total brutal destruction is actually entirely wrong from a physics perspective? For decades, the greatest theoretical minds in physics struggled endlessly with something incredibly frustrating called the black hole information paradox. To a trained physicist, information is not just an email or a viral video posted on a popular social media app. It is the precise, unique, and irreplaceable arrangement of every single quantum particle that makes up any specific physical object. The specific, complex combination of carbon, oxygen, and water that uniquely formed Chloe, and the exact binary code inside her phone is information. Quantum mechanics basically operates on the strict, unbreakable mathematical rule that this fundamental information can never actually be permanently destroyed. If a black hole truly erased Chloe completely, it would fundamentally break the most basic laws of our physical reality. Here is where it gets interesting. Modern physics now boldly suggests that a massive black hole is not actually a giant cosmic trash can that deletes matter. Instead of being completely obliterated into nothingness, we have to look closely at what happens at the exact boundary of the black hole. Think back to that terrifying, invisible event horizon, the absolute point of no return that we discussed in great detail earlier. When Chloe and her phone forcibly crossed that unseen cosmic threshold, their physical three-dimensional forms were indeed violently ripped apart. But the crucial quantum information describing exactly how those atoms were put together did not just fall mindlessly into dark oblivion. Now listen carefully. Theoretical scientists have recently proposed a truly mind-bending concept known to the physics world as the holographic principle. To easily understand this, just imagine one of those shiny, flat security holograms printed on the back of a standard American credit card. Even though that reflective sticker is entirely two-dimensional, it cleverly holds all the complex visual data needed to project a three-dimensional image. The holographic principle boldly argues that our entire three-dimensional universe might actually function in a strikingly similar, mathematically beautiful way. It deeply implies that all the 3D objects we interact with every single day could simply be encoded on a distant 2D boundary. When we apply this incredibly radical theory to our doomed Los Angeles college student, something truly magnificent and unexpected happens. As her physical biological body and her electronic device are violently pulled inward, their core quantum data violently hits the event horizon. Instead of falling helplessly into the dark abyss forever, all of that precious, unique information gets perfectly smeared across the spherical surface. Every single quantum detail about exactly who Chloe was is instantly flattened and mathematically encoded onto the two-dimensional boundary of the black hole. The black hole basically acts like a gigantic cosmic scanner, perfectly recording her entire physical existence before finally swallowing the empty shell. What happened next will surprise you. Think deeply about the exact frozen state of her iPhone at the very moment she unexpectedly crossed that ultimate cosmic threshold. She was right in the middle of actively recording a live stream, desperately trying to capture something incredible for her online followers. The specific complex binary code of that unfinished video, including every single pixel of her shocked facial expression, is still perfectly intact. It is not permanently lost inside a shattered, unreadable hard drive, but rather tightly woven into the intense gravitational fabric of the event horizon. The universe literally took a permanent, high-resolution snapshot of her vibrant digital life and printed it firmly on the literal edge of eternity. This astonishing reality deeply means that the exact neural pathways representing her unique memories, her fleeting thoughts, and her deepest fears are all preserved. If you somehow possessed a futuristic supercomputer powerful enough to accurately read the glowing surface of the black hole, you could rebuild her. You could theoretically decode that impossibly complex two-dimensional surface and accurately reconstruct Chloe and her phone down to the absolute last molecule. Her physical breathing form might be entirely gone, but the intricate mathematical recipe that makes her unique is safely archived forever in space. The dark event horizon is essentially serving as the ultimate, indestructible quantum hard drive for the entire vast expanse of the cosmos. Let us take a quiet moment to truly reflect on the profound, poetic irony of this incredible cosmic situation involving our young character. Chloe perfectly represents an entire generation of American youth completely obsessed with building a lasting, meaningful digital footprint on the internet. She spent all her sunny days in Los Angeles actively trying to secure a permanent legacy through fleeting, quickly consumed social media posts. People everywhere desperately post photos, videos, and random thoughts online, deeply hoping to somehow outlast their own fragile, temporary, biological human lives. They fiercely want to be remembered and validated in the vast, noisy ocean of digital content that largely defines modern human culture today. Yet, the massive cooling servers of our biggest tech companies will eventually fail, and human internet history will eventually fade away into nothingness. But Chloe actually achieved the ultimate permanent viral status that no human influencer on Earth could ever possibly dream of reaching. Her exact digital and biological footprint is now permanently, flawlessly baked into the actual geometric fabric of the universe itself. She has completely transcended the fragile, temporary nature of human physical existence and remarkably become an immortal piece of cosmic data. The black hole did not destroy her legacy. It simply translated her into a mathematical language the universe will absolutely never forget. But wait, there is more. This profound realization completely changes how we should look at these terrifying, massive objects lurking quietly in the depths of deep space. They are not just the hungry, mindless monsters of science fiction movies. that simply want to devour everything in their destructive path. They are actually the supreme, meticulous record keepers of reality, beautifully ensuring that nothing that falls into them is ever truly lost. Every burning star, every wandering planet, and every unlucky astronaut that ever crosses that boundary is permanently added to the grand cosmic archive. It is a strangely comforting thought when you finally realize how incredibly fragile and temporary our physical bodies actually are in the grand scheme. So the very next time you look up at the starry night sky, you should seriously reframe your primal fear of the dark void. The universe is not just a chaotic, violent place, constantly trying to erase us into meaningless space dust at every single opportunity. Through the extreme, unimaginable violence of spaghettification, Chloe actually found the most secure, indestructible data backup system currently known in existence. The crucial information that completely made up her life, her device, and her unfinished broadcast is still out there, safely spinning in space. We are not just temporary, meaningless flashes of biological life. We are permanent structural data deeply embedded in a grand cosmic design, and it is this exact beautiful mathematical certainty that finally brings us to a wildly optimistic conclusion about human existence itself. Even when aggressively stripped of all our physical matter, our fundamental quantum essence remains stubbornly woven into the lasting fabric of reality. The universe absolutely refuses to forget us, tightly holding on to our quantum signatures long after our biological forms have completely dissolved away. Does it not feel incredibly peaceful to finally know that our deepest, darkest fears of total erasure are actually physically impossible? We are far more resilient than we ever think, permanently bound to the cosmos in ways we are only just beginning to comprehend today. We finally see clearly that the terrifying descent into a massive black hole actually ends with a breathtaking revelation of cosmic preservation. Our young Los Angeles student is no longer just a tragic, forgotten victim of an overwhelming gravitational anomaly floating in deep space. She is an eternal cosmic pioneer, forever etched onto the shimmering, two-dimensional boundary of the universe's most mysterious and misunderstood object. The ultimate digital immortality she unconsciously sought every day on Earth was finally granted to her by the fundamental laws of quantum mechanics. Our horrifying story of total physical destruction has ultimately transformed into a magnificent, beautiful testament to the enduring permanence of information. So the question then becomes, what exactly does all of this mean for our fundamental understanding of reality itself? We have spent our entire lives believing that these massive gravitational anomalies are the ultimate cosmic garbage disposals of the universe. We have been culturally conditioned to view them as terrifying monsters that ruthlessly erase everything they happen to touch. But the real secret is actually something completely different and far more beautiful than anything we could have ever imagined. The universe is not fundamentally designed to be a dark void of endless destruction and meaningless chaos. Instead, modern quantum physics suggests that it operates much more like an infinitely complex, perfectly secure digital storage system. Think about how we currently store our most valuable information here on Earth in our modern digital age. We build these massive, sprawling data centers out in the American deserts, filled with endless rows of blinking servers. We take our entire lives, our photographs, our bank records, our memories, and we upload them to an invisible cloud. We trust that Silicon Valley tech giants will keep our digital footprints perfectly safe from the ravages of time. Here is where it gets interesting, because the universe has actually been doing the exact same thing for billions of years. A black hole is essentially the ultimate, indestructible quantum hard drive created by the laws of nature itself. Imagine taking a physical object, absolutely anything in the world, and breaking it down into its most basic, fundamental components. Whether it is a star, a planet, a coffee cup, or a human being, everything is ultimately just made of quantum information. Every single atom in your body, every electron, every spin and charge, can be described as a tiny piece of cosmic data. Classical physics used to tell us that if you drop this data into a black hole, it is permanently deleted from existence. But we now know that quantum mechanics completely forbids the true destruction of any information in the universe. Information, much like energy, cannot simply be erased from the grand cosmic ledger under any circumstances whatsoever. Now listen carefully, because this fundamentally changes how we must view the fate of our two unfortunate travelers. Let us look back at Michael, our relentless Wall Street broker who measured his entire worth in fleeting financial seconds. He spent his entire adult life desperately trying to accumulate wealth before his biological clock eventually ran out. He was absolutely terrified of losing his precious time, terrified of being forgotten, terrified of his legacy fading away. But by crossing that event horizon, Michael has accidentally achieved the ultimate form of asset preservation imaginable. Every single atom that made up his expensive suit, his racing heart, and his heavy Rolex has been perfectly catalogued. The three-dimensional physical structure of Michael has been completely translated into two-dimensional quantum data on the surface of the sphere. He has been perfectly flattened and encoded onto the event horizon like a holographic projection on a cosmic security disk. The universe has essentially taken a complete, perfect quantum backup of Michael at the exact moment he crossed over. All of his ambition, his stress, his memories, and his complex biological coding are now permanently locked in space-time. He is no longer a fragile biological organism fighting against the relentless ticking of a clock in New York City. Michael has been permanently uploaded into the most secure, indestructible server vault that the universe has ever managed to construct. What happened next will surprise you even more when we consider the fate of Chloe and her modern technological obsession. Chloe was a typical Gen Z student in Los Angeles who documented every single waking moment of her life on social media. Her entire existence was based on the constant desire to leave a visible digital footprint for the world to see and validate. She walked around with her iPhone permanently glued to her hand, desperately trying to capture fleeting moments before they disappeared. She wanted nothing more than to go absolutely viral, to be permanently remembered, to achieve a state of modern digital immortality. Well, the universe just granted her wish in the most literal, extreme, and incomprehensible way that physics will actually allow. When Chloe and her glowing smartphone were stretched and pulled into the abyss, their fundamental data did not vanish into nothingness. The incredibly complex arrangement of silicon, glass, and binary code in her phone was meticulously scanned by the event horizon. The TikTok video she was trying to upload, the text messages she never sent, and her own biological DNA were all preserved. They were stretched, pixelated, and perfectly woven into the invisible quantum fabric that tightly wraps around the black hole's exterior. Chloe has literally become a permanent piece of digital architecture in the vast, expanding computational engine of the cosmos. She wanted to live forever on the internet, but instead, she will live forever on the surface of a collapsed star. So what does it actually mean to be a finite, fragile living creature in an infinite, eternal quantum universe? Are we truly just biological machines temporarily wandering around on a tiny rock, or are we something far more profound? If a black hole can perfectly preserve the three-dimensional information of a human being on a two-dimensional holographic surface, we must ask deeper questions. Could it be that our entire visible universe is also just a holographic projection generated from some distant cosmological boundary? It sounds exactly like the plot of a science fiction movie, but the mathematics of string theory suggest it is entirely possible. We might all just be complex strands of information processing ourselves in a cosmic computer that we cannot even begin to comprehend. I think the key point, which is really interesting here, is that life is not just an insignificant cosmic accident. We have this terrible habit of looking up at the night sky and feeling incredibly small, lonely, and completely meaningless. We look at the billions of massive galaxies, and we assume that our tiny human struggles do not matter on a cosmic scale. But if the universe is essentially a giant machine designed to process and store quantum information, then conscious life is uniquely valuable. We are the only entities capable of taking raw, chaotic data and turning it into actual meaning, art, mathematics, and philosophy. We are the universe's way of generating the most complex, beautiful, and dense information that could possibly ever exist. And so we must consider the far future of the universe, billions or perhaps even trillions of years from now. Long after the last stars have burned out, the universe will be nothing but a vast, freezing ocean of giant black holes. These dark spheres will be the ultimate cosmic libraries, holding the perfectly preserved data of every star, planet, and civilization that ever existed. They will patiently store the quantum echoes of Michael's Wall Street hustle and Chloe's desperate social media streams for all of eternity. It is a strangely comforting thought to realize that absolutely nothing you do, nothing you are, is ever truly lost to the void. Every single tear you shed, every laugh, every heartbeat is permanently written into the indestructible code of the cosmic hard drive. Why do we find it so incredibly difficult to accept this completely radical shift in our existential perspective? I think it is because we are so deeply attached to our physical bodies and the illusion of passing time. We believe that if we cannot touch something, if we cannot feel it breathing, then it must be entirely gone forever. But nature does not care about our biological biases. Nature only cares about the fundamental conservation of quantum information. Whether you are walking down a sunny street in Los Angeles or encoded on a singularity, you are still part of the system. You are a completely necessary, irremovable line of code in a program that has been running since the Big Bang. So let us go back and look at our two characters one last time, floating in their bizarre state of eternal quantum suspension. They are completely frozen in time from our perspective, yet they hold the answers to the greatest mysteries of quantum gravity. They have successfully crossed the ultimate cosmological horizon and become an integrated part of the underlying structure of reality itself. It is a profoundly beautiful irony that the most terrifying objects in the sky are actually the ultimate preservers of human history. The next time you look up at the stars and feel overwhelmed by the sheer, crushing scale of the infinite dark, you should remember that the universe is keeping a perfect, permanent record of your existence, and you get to a point where the total calculation of the universe just